And the one thing that I absolutely, is a pet peeve of mine in a panel or a solo discussion or anything, is when I have so much I want to learn about a subject, but the person presenting talked for approximately 4.7 seconds about it. So, I never want that to happen. I want to answer everything you guys want to know. Every person on this panel is a marketing professional, very well respected in their industry and what they do. Some of them are entrepreneurs themselves, to my knowledge, all of them. And they're also specialists in marketing. Either they have a marketing background prior to becoming an entrepreneur, or they're just really a bootstrapping entrepreneur who has figured out how to do the marketing themselves and have tips, tricks, and shortcuts to probably what you want to know. So, I'm going to let each of them quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll go on with the show. So we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Lundgren-Nauert, co-founder of CBD Lion, and also do the marketing here.
My name is Shada Tarabi. I am co-founder of Restart CBD, as well as a social media influencer headquartered out of Austin, Texas. We have a retail store as well as an e-commerce store. And then prior to that, I was with one of Austin's fastest growing tech startups in their marketing department, helping them scale over 6 years to reach 80,000 global customers.
Hey y'all, I'm Flip Croft-Cadero. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I started an agency 10 years ago in Dallas that was kind of focused in larger CPG stuff, so clients like Anheuser-Busch, Pizza Hut, American Express, all that stuff. About a year and a half ago, I started an agency focused on the cannabis industry because I love weed and I love marketing, and I want to put those two things together. So I've been doing that for the past year and a half, and it's been pretty awesome.
We have a very similar story, actually. My name is Josephine Nowitz, and I am co-founder of Cannabis Creative. We are based in Boston. We have clients all over the U.S., and we work with CBD and cannabis companies all over the U.S. Our parent company is a marketing agency that's been around for a decade in the Boston area, and really excited to be here today.
My name is Alex Lesnov. I'm the president and founder of Advanced Extraction out of Brighton, Colorado, including our flagship brand, Pure Hemp Botanicals. And excited to be here as well.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so you can see you have a very good variety of people who are in it, have done it, and hopefully will help you get there quicker and sooner. So, I'm going to open it up immediately to questions. Do we have a mic runner back there? Staff, somebody group? Yeah, this is Callie. She's my assistant. She's awesome. So, I'm going to open it up to your questions. If you guys are a little shy at first, don't worry, I'll get you on. But it's like we got one up here, so let's go.
Hello. Dallas, Texas. So, do you have any data points on how effective billboard advertising has been?
Okay, so the question is, how effective is billboard advertising? So, here's how I'd like to do it, because I want an opinion from each of you, but it's got to be short and sweet. So, I'm going to go down the line. Give me what you know, you guys. Keep it to a minimum so we can roll through these questions. So, start, Katie.
Sure, great question. Thank you for asking that. Billboard is great to get your brand out, especially when you are new. It's a great place where people can actually see your new brand, or whether it is something that you are creating, it's a new product. And also, the return on the ROI is going to be a little bit interesting to track, because this is something that people see in a high traffic area. So there may be a little trouble there, but it's a great way to get your brand out.
I haven't done billboard advertising in particular, but I would imagine, depending on if your brand is local versus a national brand, you would want to take advantage of the geographical area for which your customers or potential customers would be existing in. So I could see the value just depending on what you're selling. Obviously, just checking the pricing too. Last I checked, I think billboards were pretty expensive, so it's an investment.
I would say it depends on what your goal is. I mean, if you want brand awareness, yeah, throw out some traditional stuff, but Maybe it's just because I'm a digital person at heart. I think there's a lot more effective ways to gain a customer, but it just depends on what you want to do. If you want to do large-scale stuff, then spend some large-scale money and buy some large-scale billboards.
Yeah, so I also have a digital background, but to try to answer your question here, a way to measure traditional advertising in general is to use promo codes or to use unique domains so that you're actually tracking through analytics how many visitors you're getting to your core website through that domain, or if you have a dispensary or a retail location, using a promo code is a great way to track. But also, I think that if you're trying to target a geographical region, obviously billboards are great for that, getting more foot traffic. And I think also in certain states there are less barriers to entry in terms of what you can and cannot put on a billboard. As opposed to advertising online, it's very challenging to find loopholes advertising online. So people in this industry tend to start with the traditional route and then find an agency or work with a partner that has experience with the digital route as well.
Yeah, I would say definitely it's very dependent upon your objective, and unless really, again, you're going for that more awareness versus a direct conversion. I've used billboards in past. I've not used billboards at all for anything I've done in the CBD business, and I would definitely consider it a more further developed mode of advertising at this point.
Actually, I'm interested, Alex, could you answer why did you choose to do billboards a more traditional route previously? And it's just interesting that you in your
so two things. I'm going to date myself here. I did it before there were digital billboards, and I actually did it in conference, running conferences and presenting. So there, you're looking for a much larger network of people. But that was my application.
I didn't mean to do this.
You're good.
Definitely to sum that up, the only thing I would note to that is, Shayla, you had a great point about the demographics. It matters so much on them. They work good for local. I've seen them work well for local. And another thing is, if it's, for instance, for like a retail store, it works well if you're able to put the billboard close to where your actual store is. That's when it really kicks up and what I've seen work. And then Josephine also had a great point to be able to track, use a landing page, use a / something on the website URL, or that you're advertising or promoting for sure. Okay, thanks guys. Next question.
What would you say is your most effective marketing when it comes to CBD? Like your platform? Is it Instagram, Facebook? Is it, there's so many different types of platforms, and how are you guys marketing when it is still considered a gray area?
Okay, how are you using social media? What's working best when it's still considered a gray area, etc.? We'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, it's hands down easiest. It's customer referral. And obviously that can come in a lot of different ways. That can be online, that can be in person, but there's nothing like someone saying they use your product and that it works for them to influence another decision maker. I think everything else is great, different online, social media. To me, all of those are just vehicles upon which you can have then a customer referral. So if you're just talking about one specific thing that is going to provide the highest amount of conversion, to me it's customer referral.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In terms of which platforms you could use, if you're looking to target a millennial audience, always recommended to use Instagram. That is what will really, even in the cannabis side of this industry, is what's going to drive the most amount of organic traffic to your website. So hugely important to be on Instagram. There's a lot of opportunity to promote your CBD products on Instagram, and also coupling that with a email marketing strategy. So using MailChimp, for example, or Constant Contact to track who's going to your website and then continue to send emails to them to get them to come back to your website and buy through your e-com store?
I think one of the hardest things about this is because for any other brand, I would say if you're going to try to do, customer acquisition online, the two things that we go to typically is search and paid social. Those are the best places to spend your money. Problem is with CBD and cannabis, those are the two places you cannot spend your money. Except for paid social that, Facebook, Instagram has opened up a little bit to CBD topicals. I haven't seen anyone really taking advantage of that yet, but I do think it's a huge opportunity for CBD topical brands. I think third to that, I think it just depends on what your objectives are, to be honest. A place where I've found a lot of success is programmatic digital, which is really, it's new to the cannabis and CBD industries, but we've been able to successfully run some programmatic campaigns. And so that, those are the ads that follow you around. They track you based on, your customer behavior and all of that stuff. We found a lot of success there just because no one else is playing in that space. So I don't know, it's still the Wild West. I think wherever you can get in, try to fit in kind of thing. But I think it's based on your objective. What are you trying to do? You trying to make more sales? Do you want to increase brand awareness? So, sorry, that's like answering your question and not answering your question at the same time.
So as someone who spends a lot of time on Instagram, both for my brand and personally, I guess to reiterate what the other panelists have said, it depends on your goals. If you're trying to just show up and be present and have a profile, that's one thing. But if you're actually trying to activate people, creating high quality content is going to be first and foremost, but then also getting people to engage with that content. So something that I've done personally as well as have seen success with is influencer marketing. So I work with a lot of brands to promote their products, whether it's paid, product trade, things like that. I've seen that to be really successful. But outside of social media traditional platforms, I'm a really big advocate for like Yelp and Google reviews. So I think Alex touched on, your customer referrals are really big. So whatever those people are experiencing with your brand. So we have a retail location in Austin. I also have an online store. And you better believe as a marketer, I'm asking every single customer who comes into my physical location, how did they hear about us? Because I do events, I'm doing social, I'm doing all these other activities. And I would say 90% of people tell me that they come in because they Googled CBD near me and my reviews were really great. So anytime that you can take advantage of a customer who had a positive experience, direct them, whether it's through an email campaign or through social media to leave you a review, those reviews can really help further validate and emphasize why someone would pick your product over someone else's.
Great points, Trey. This is very true. Being a CBD brand myself and doing a lot of the marketing here, it's extremely important for your brand awareness and for whatever your goals are to reach that audience. We use Instagram and Facebook, and a couple of the other panelists touched on it with topicals for Instagram and Facebook. We have actually tried to push through a couple of our own and have been denied. So be very careful. I want to let everybody know that as much as the buzz out there is that they are allowing this, they still haven't fully pushed it. You may get a robot instead of an actual person. So what I would say to you guys is look for ads managers on Facebook and Instagram. Anyone you can get to that is an actual person that will review your ads, you are going to get a little bit closer to push through there. Topicals is absolutely your best bet. So they, right now, I think is the safest route. I think this is going to open up for everybody and allow a lot of other products and things to come through in the future. But I think this is their test run. And then I also want to say for tracking ads as well, that's really important. That was brought up by a couple of other panelists. You want to know your return, like who's visiting the site. That's super important. We also have a lot of reviews, and we take that to heart. That's also personal feedback on your products and the things that you're putting out there. It's also super important to educate everybody, right? Some people may not know what about these new products that you're launching or about CBD. It's important to say why you are different or why this specific product is important to you and your brand.
The one thing that I will add to that is, trying to get whatever I can get to you guys. LinkedIn. Do not forget LinkedIn. CBD industry, the cannabis industry, loves LinkedIn. And we have the biggest, strongest community on there. Use it, become an influencer on there, start commenting on other people's posts intelligently. And then you know, people will start, you'll see, you have a ton of connection requests. And so a lot of deals have been made on LinkedIn. A lot of relationships have been created on LinkedIn. If your product is leaning towards growers, growers live on Instagram. We don't know why. They live on Instagram. It's a thing. I don't know. So if you have a product that leans towards growers, nurture your Instagram, most definitely. So Twitter for the cannabis industry, as far as I'm concerned, CBD has never been worth anyone's time that I've ever heard.
So LinkedIn is allowing ads for lead generation?
LinkedIn is.
Okay, perfect.
They are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
LinkedIn ads are a lot more expensive, so a lot of our clients who we work with, we encourage them to explore LinkedIn ads, but I believe it's like a minimum of $500 just to run one ad to start. So some of our clients are a little bit more interested in getting the organic following going first on Instagram and then exploring advertising and seeing what the return is there.
Okay, next question.
Do you have any recommendations on how to do a review campaign?
Recommendations on how to do a review campaign.
After a couple years of business, not seeing the reviews coming in, how do we reach out to those customers and ask for a review?
Ask them for what?
Ask for a review.
Do you have a retail or e-commerce? Retail or e-commerce?
E-commerce.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with Kate.
Sure, and that's a great question. One way is you can set up, and we talked about this a little bit before, is with an email campaign, you know, to target your audience. You can have a discount code to get that person to write the review. You know, say, hey, you just bought this product. You can pop up a nice design saying, we'd like you to write a review. Here's 10% off your next order. That's also an incentive for them to write the review. And also somewhere people, you can post it on different avenues of that. So, right, that's one way to get people in is through the email campaigns. But you can also do it on social media. Hey, you know, you like this product, write us a review, you know, 5% off for a referral, stuff like that.
Yeah, I would echo that. And additionally, I think there was a previous panel where they were talking about kind of managing the customer experience. I personally, from an online perspective, get a lot of customers who will reach out to me and say nice things, but it's not a review. I try to capture and activate those people, whether it was a positive response or maybe even a slightly negative response where it's a customer experience solution type of conversation. Hey, you sent me the wrong product, or hey, you know, my coupon code didn't get activated. Any dialogue that you have with a customer is an opportunity to kind of open up back and say, hey, if you had a great experience, would you please mind sending us a review, and then linking directly to those platforms. But I think what she expressed in terms of taking advantage of, you know, pointing them to those directions, and on social media activating with coupons or discount codes in reward for someone leaving a review is a fair game.
Yeah, and I think to Shayna's point, Shada's point, so there's a D. I think just asking them, honestly, like reaching out, depending on where you're at, but reaching out to your customers and just saying, hey, would you write me a review? I mean, in a few of the other businesses that I have, I'm straight up just asked people, and that usually gets the ball rolling a little bit, since people would like to, you know, they see other reviews and things like that. But I think as an entrepreneur in this space, I think really connecting to your customers is huge. So if you're not getting those reviews, I mean, just trying to, like, just, you have their email addresses and you have their, I mean, you've shipped them products, you have their address, right? What if you wrote them a letter? That'd be kind of cool. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I echo all of that, and it's different if you have a retail location opposed to having an e-store, right? I mean, if you are looking for reviews for your retail location, you're going to want those on Google My Business, you're going to want those on Yelp, but if you have an e-store, you're going to want the reviews or the testimonials directly on your website. So you got to give some to get some. Even if you're trying to get an email address, get them to sign up for your newsletter, giving a promo code usually works the best to get contact information, to get a review, and even as little as 5% off or 10% off goes a long way, and you'll usually get, you know, what you're looking for.
Yeah, I guess really to sum up what everybody else said, I would say it's ask, timing, and offer. So first, you have to ask for the review. If you're not asking for it, no one's going to give it to you. Two, the time you ask for that review is going to be critical. If they're repurchasing the product, that's a great time to ask for a review. If they're purchasing it for the first time, maybe not as good of a time to ask for that review. And then as far as the offer, making it special if possible. It's great to give a discount, which is pretty standard, but if you can actually come up with an offer that's a little bit different or special, maybe a product you don't have on your website, something extra that you might send that customer for submitting that review, that can really incentivize people if they feel like it's something that's unique or special for them.
People love free T-shirts.
Yes, they do. We gave them all out today. One other thing I wanted to add, we have designed our website on multiple platforms, whether it's, Shopify, BigCommerce, a couple other, there's WordPress, there's a bunch of sites out there, there's Wix. Whatever you're using, make sure if it's an app that it is working. Because sometimes there is a code in there and that there is something that is not functioning properly, and you may be wondering, you're doing these emails, make sure that you have the coding in the back end to make sure that your app is functioning properly, or whatever format you're using for your reviews.
I want to add one other thing really quick too. You're sending people products. Go print up some really cheap business cards that have a link to whatever you want your review to be directed towards. It's an email, it's a digital website platform. Like literally put it in the package that you're sending to your customer. Say, hey, if you liked what you got, leave us a review, please.
All right, next question. This is fun. This is way more fun.
Hi, so I wanted to ask, I think there's a lot of misinformation and confusion around CBD, and what role do you guys think marketing plays in informing and educating consumers, either people who might be new to CBD or experienced? How do you think marketing plays a role within all of that?
Okay, I'll go ahead and start, which maybe makes sense. Because I have to say, I approach things from a very 360 approach, and meaning that to me, marketing is something that is one piece of the business. It's not part of everything. I have to, as the president, have my compliance hat on and my education piece, my consumer role, and it's definitely a challenging right now in the marketplace because there's a lot of marketing opportunities that may not necessarily be the most compliant or the most, again, depending upon a particular brand or company's risk exposure, what somebody wants to say. So I think first thing, and this kind of goes to just creating a brand in general, you have to decide who you are and how you want to represent yourself to companies, or to your customers rather. So if you're going to represent yourself as a high quality, high compliant brand, then you can't go out there saying things that are on the border. So I think most important, the way I'll summarize this and let everybody else go from there, is your marketing needs to be in line with what you're saying your brand representation is.
So I almost completely disagree with everything you just said. Not everything, but marketing is hugely important, if not the most important, especially for an entrepreneur, and especially if you're building your new product line, your new CBD product line. And by far the most challenging part of this industry is obviously educating the consumer. That's the most difficult part. And in the last, 5 years, decade, content marketing has been content is king, is what we're always telling our clients at Cannabis Creative. It's hugely important to educate consumers, and in this space, it's new for consumers. They don't know what they're getting, and they need to be able to trust you, and your brand needs to stick with them. So visually, hugely important. Your story, being able to connect on a personal level with your target audience is really important. So if you yourself have found relief with CBD, tell your story. Don't be afraid to share that with your customers, because that's going to allow them to connect with you, resonate with you. Your brand will stick with them. And try to stay away from, the science. Try to stay away from the CBDV and all these different scientific terminology, because that'll just confuse people. the general consumer is not going to go onto your website and read a lab report. That's not how it works. So educate in a way, in their language, in a way that they'll understand. This has been, this has helped me in my story because I've had fibromyalgia, for example, or I've had insomnia, and this is my story, and these are testimonials from hundreds of, people who have used my products, who have found relief for these different ailments.
I kind of agree and disagree, honestly. So obviously, like, the CBD market is huge in, it's new and a lot of people are confused out there, right? So education is is definitely important for the industry to tackle, right? Whether it's a marketing avenue or if it's a brand positioning avenue or whatever, I think you're hearing a lot of, like, people telling, if you're a new brand of this, you have to educate your consumer, right? Which I do agree with, but I don't think we all have to do that, honestly, or at least we're getting to a point where we're not going to have to educate as much. I just think that there's too much competition already in the space for that. I mean, like, any question you have about CBD, you can Google right now, and there's 20 or 30 other websites that are way more optimized than you'll ever be, that is going to sit there at the top of those search results. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's important. I think it depends on what your brand is. If your CBD brand is focused towards medical, it's going to be sold in doctor's offices or chiropractic offices or whatever, then maybe it's a little bit more technical. Maybe you lean a little bit more on the education side. But if you're like a lifestyle product and you just want to smoke cannabis or CBD to be cool or whatever, which is not a good brand position. But if that is what your brand is about, then live it out, right? Do that. Let everyone else educate and spend all the money on educating why should they use CBD, and then let them choose your brand based on how they feel. I don't know. I mean, that's what I think. Yeah, right.
I also disagree. No, I guess mine will be a little bit more of a personal relatedness to that question. You really have to understand what your product is and who your end consumer is, because that's really what matters. You want someone to see what you're selling, and you want them to resonate with the story, the product, the packaging, the marketing, the messaging, and ultimately give you their money. And part of that is you want a quality product so that they come back to you. But I think it's a combination of everything that everybody said. So for us, we got into CBD. Full disclosure, I love cannabis, both sides of the plant, both hemp and marijuana, and I've been a consumer for over a decade. But I'm newer to CBD. We got into CBD as a family 4 years ago because I was in a car accident and I fractured my pelvis in 2 places. And so I was in a lot of pain. Pain meds didn't work, steroid injections weren't working, and my mom actually introduced me to CBD because she knew how much I loved the plant, but I didn't really know what it was. And 3.5 years ago, we didn't, as a community, as a market, know what it was. And so for us, our brand has grown so much success by telling our story, by being relatable. My product isn't super differentiated from all the other products on the market, but it's high quality. I know who my end consumer is. I want people, when they come to my shop, come to my website, to feel safe, to feel trusted, to feel related to. Whether you're 17 years old or 57 years old, you should see yourself in my product and in my brand, and that's my ultimate goal, and I think that has allowed us to resonate with our consumers. So yeah, there's so many different products in the market. You don't have to be all those different products, and you don't have to do all these different marketing tactics and local or national. Like, who is your consumer? Where do they live? What value do you provide to them? And then that's what you should market to them.
All great things. I'm going to add to this by saying you have a responsibility here, and this industry, I'm hoping, shapes and changes the industries that are around us, whether it's the food industry, the beverage, a lot of different things here. It is your responsibility to put out good content. We're people here, right? It's got to come from the heart, guys. This is something that we have the opportunity here to make huge strides and changes. This is so impactful in a big way that I think that when you're putting out something that you love and a product that you really can back, and that's something that you would like to tell somebody about that changes their life, it's super important. So yes, marketing and brand with that, I think, should coexist. I also do a lot of the graphic design, if not all of it, with my brand. So I kind of do marketing and graphic design together. This gives me the sole advantage to design based on the consumer and where I see there is education that needs to happen. There is times where maybe I won't educate as much because the consumer, now I feel like everybody knows about the endocannabinoid system. However, you also have a range of the different types of people coming to you. You have the spectrum of people that know nothing about CBD because maybe their state hasn't opened up to these regulations and this new stuff here. Then you get the consumer that is fully educated, that knows everything. And I want to say there's always something to learn here. Whether it's something that you are promoting or selling or a new product, it's super important to keep following your heart and to do big things for this industry. There's a lot of integrity up here. Everybody's doing awesome things. Let's keep going and keep it in the right direction. Thank you.
So the one thing I can say is that your question was, what role does marketing play in starting a business? It plays an important one. So the thing is no one knows about you until you tell them. No one knows what you can do for them until you tell them. PR plays just as important of a role as marketing. And when I did have my marketing firm for the 10 years before I started the magazine and the events, it would be hard for me sometimes, but sometimes I would have to say, in my opinion, you should go to a public relations company before a marketing firm. But sometimes that was the truth. And you guys have to think about what it is, as the panel said, that you want to go. Who are you? What's your story? Because sometimes, depending on what that is, people will hear you better and believe you more if it's from someone other than you. And if that's the case, then that's where you need to look heavily at PR. So they both play a very important role. Okay, next question. Where's Kelly? Kelly, she's so small. You're like a little squid. I love Kelly.
Thank you, everybody. Very intuitive. We've talked about a lot of digital marketing. What about non-digital, like events? What type of events you see most in your personal experience or opinion would be more most effective? I don't know, because I saw also on top of that, what do you think of podcasts? Because I saw more stores start doing podcasts with doctors. What are your thoughts on that?
As far as events, the CBD is what tours. But anyway, I'll start.
Great question. Yes, podcast is an open avenue for advertising. I think that's a great way. We also do podcasts as well. So that's a good way to start, and they're very open to it. And you can also track your return on that investment with a coupon code for whoever is speaking. So that is definitely put that in place. And I think, what was your other question that you had asked before? Events, yes, absolutely. So when you're starting out too, getting your brand out, we did a couple of magazine ads as well across the board. Depending on what your audience you're looking for, make sure you pick out the magazine that you are targeting the correct audience. There's a ton out there. Obviously, this event is great. They educate well, so pick who you're aligned with, your brand, and what you resonate with, and go from there.
I love events. Events are fantastic opportunities to get your product, your brand in front of your target consumers. I guess there's a lot of factors that I would just kind of throw out there if your product is more localized. So for example, in Austin, CBD is really popular. We have wellness fairs. I get asked for our brand to participate in pop-up markets, like holiday markets are coming up, whether it's like natural food markets or shows. So it doesn't necessarily have to be CBD specific focused. Sometimes going into other industries that might have a benefit because it's your target customer. So let's say you have a sports topical, going to sports types of events, sponsoring maybe a baseball game or something locally. Again, trying to think outside of the box that, sorry, in my opinion, I love this show. I think this show is actually one of the better ones that I've been to, and I've gone to a lot of CBD events, so I'd love to plug Celeste. but this is clearly like a CBD event. So when you show up here, you're competing with a lot of other brands. So what are some of those other shows that you can go be one of the only CBD brands represented at? Another thing that I love to advocate for are owned events that you put on yourself. So again, we have a retail shop, and I take advantage of having a retail location by throwing meetups in my office. We try to do them once a month. Sometimes that doesn't happen as consistently as I would like, but whether you have a retail location or you're a brand who is maybe a little bit more distributed, or you're a digital product, or you're doing e-commerce, finding maybe opportunities to do collaborations in target geographical demographics. So let's say you're realizing a lot of your customers are in San Francisco, California, or Salt Lake City, Utah. Go see how you could activate in those cities with brands who might want to help you do a pop-up or something like that. But I'm a really big advocate of owned events.
Yeah, I went to, actually last night I went to my clients through an event, Open Vape, through an event here in Denver. It was like a cannabis-focused experiential, event, and it was amazing. And I was literally talking to my colleague Jeff about like, oh, what does this look like in the CBD space? And I think what Shada was saying is totally right on the market. It's like where are CBD brands going to be featured? And I think I don't think you're going to see a CBD event like you do a cannabis event, right? It's a little different, but it's kind of like farmers markets, local pop-up event. I mean, things like that, like health and wellness. There's a lot of, I think, opportunity there. And as a side, I think that the biggest thing that I saw this year with all my cannabis clients is like, and I don't know if you saw this too, but like they all like hired in-house experiential teams. Like they all beefed up all their experiential marketing. So events is 100% where, especially this year, a lot of cannabis brands are going. And obviously CBD, depending on your brand, is a different demo. But it's interesting to see the laws and things open up to allow those events. And I think CBD is going to be right behind that. You also talked about podcasts. I think podcasts are amazing. You just have to know, what kind of media you're buying, right? It's not just a typical digital ad. Like you're buying sponsorship and approval from those hosts because they're reading your ads. So just make sure they're the right podcast and they're hitting the right demo. And I would also say, not all podcasts are letting CBD and cannabis brands, like mid-roll won't accept anything. So you can't like do anything on a large like national scale, but those kind of individual owned podcasts is a great place right now to build a following with those, the following of those podcasts. Yeah.
Can I add something really quick? In addition to podcasts, I think we're all up here marketing our businesses and brands. So taking advantage of whether it's a CBD show or another expo or a wellness event, figuring out how you can speak at events is a really great way to activate your brand in addition to vending at the event.
Yeah, absolutely. And PR is hugely important. And speaking at events like this will really help you get your brand out there. Podcasts are great. You don't always have to pay for space in a podcast. Periodic Effects is a great podcast that Cannabis Creative has been featured on, and we've been able to direct exact clients that have come from that podcast. So big fan of podcasts, big fan of events. If you can partner with, local, if you don't have your own retail shop, you can partner with local retailers. So if you have a massage oil, for example, partner with a spa or a salon. If you have, pain balm for golfers or people who play sports, partner with your local gym. Do a smoothie event, at your local juice place. There's lots of opportunities for fun events, and usually these smaller, locally owned businesses are really excited about, partnering with a CBD brand because it brings more business to their location as well.
Yeah, I think events are critical because, again, it brings that in-person connection that you just don't get online. Online, again, is great, but our company, we maintain both a B2B and a B2C events team, as the panel was indicating. Having your presence out in the actual consumer market is completely different than being at really an event. that's more business to business oriented, where you're looking for wholesalers. So being able to connect to the consumer, some of our best customers or longest customers are customers that met us at an event, and now they have that connection to a brand that a lot of times you're not going to get from someone who just buys a product online. So events important.
Sorry, I remembered something I want to say. Can I say something real quick? Sorry.
Gonna jump
I just
over
think from an events standpoint, what we're missing the mark on is, because we're not kind of, the industry isn't mature enough yet, but it's like sampling is huge. And we're not there yet because we're trying to we're playing this education game and all that stuff. I mean, if you think about from a cannabis standpoint, there's a lot of education, like what's a terpene? How high will this thing get me? What are, milligrams of THC? How is that going to affect me? All that stuff. Most of the time, most cannabis consumers now, I would say, maybe I'm just speaking for the potheads in the room, but know that education aspect already. So now we're at the point of, well, we know what weed does. Is your product good? Like, we want to sample it. I think that CBD is going to move into that too, because how many tinctures are there out there? And the only way a consumer is going to be able to now define what tincture is right for them is if they try it and if they like it. So I don't know. I think that's just a huge thing that I think this industry hasn't hit up on, but it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I want to emphasize a couple things. Josephine mentioned local. Start there. That's definitely where we started our brand. And when you have people around you that can support you and that enjoy your products as well, that goes to referral business very quickly, and that grows extremely fast. And when one person tells one person, and that expands to 3, 4, or 5 people, that's happened to us very rapidly. That's been most of our business is referrals, and I think that you can take advantage of that with doing demos and sampling. These were all great things that everybody set up here.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the questions now, and to end this conference, I'm going to ask my panelists one thing. I'm going to ask you guys, if you were in an elevator with yourself, the you from 5 years ago, and you had 2 minutes to give yourself, at that point, the best advice that you could to make things easier for you today, 5 years later, what would that be? I'm going to give you guys done.
I can get started right away. That's easy for me. That is focus. No, that's one option. That's the panic option. But if we're just talking sensibly, it's just focus. Understand what it is that you want to do. Again, I'm coming from a perspective of the company I started as a vertically integrated company. We have grow, we have processing, extraction, manufacturing, the whole thing. It's great, but it's a lot. And it prevents us from being able to become a specialist in certain areas. And I think with where the market has developed to nowadays, if someone's asking me, hey, I want to get into this space right now, what do? I'm always saying, find somewhere, find your niche, find your specialty, find whether you're an equipment supplier, you want to improve something about a process, improve something about how things operate in the industry, improve distribution, improve marketing, whatever it is, you need to find a way to be a solution provider to the marketplace. It could be education, could be all types of different things, but there is a lot of momentum right now. There's a lot of large companies out there, and I think people that are looking to enter the space today, focus, find what you're really good at, and excel at it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 6 years ago, I had just graduated from college, just gotten my bachelor's in business, and I didn't really know what to do with my life. I did not have a specialty. I knew that I wanted to go back to school and get my MBA, and that was a goal that I set for myself, and I'm happy to say that I accomplished that a couple years after graduating. But what I would say to my younger self is to have confidence, speak up, make sure that you have a seat at the table, but don't be overly confident. Know your limits, understand that you're not going to know everything, you're not going to be the expert in everything, so make sure that you have a team of people around you that you can trust and respect, that are intelligent in their fields, so that you can grow together as a team. That's what I would say to myself. Still true to this day, I would say.
I would have told myself to get in this industry sooner. I would have told myself that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're just going to work for a bunch of corporate douchebags, spending, large marketing budgets that they don't care about, and which is fun, I guess. And I apologize to anyone who's like in a big CPG company or anything here, but I will just say this experience for the past year and a half of working with real entrepreneurs, people that actually care about their business, and they're spending their favorite $1,000, or $5,000 or whatever the budget is. I've just realized that the scale, it doesn't matter to me. To me, it's like really being able to work hand in hand with people's businesses is the most gratifying thing about this job, and especially in this industry. So I don't know if that's helpful for anyone, but if anyone's sitting here in a corporate job thinking, oh my God, is this going to be my life? Maybe you should stop and turn around, and maybe this is the first step of starting your new CBD company. Because I just think that the people in this industry have been phenomenal to work with, and that's what I told myself.
I would tell myself to don't reinvent the wheel. I am a marketer by birth. I like to say I've always been marketing and storytelling. I'm a marketer by my education and by my profession. So I've kind of spanned marketing my whole life. And as a marketer, I think I'm still a victim to what's new, what's next, the competition, what's happening. I'm not doing this. I launched this product, but then the other person launched that product. What am I doing? I'm behind. And thankfully, over the past year and a half, I've learned to coach myself. If you can be really good at one thing, not have only one product and only market one thing, but focus on what that thing is. I kept feeling like I needed to have a new campaign, a new marketing thing to message, a new special, a new deal. And I learned as an influencer, this is my quick little story, I go to the same gym every day, the same gym. And I tag it on my Instagram. And I had this one girl one time reach out and say, what's your recommendation on a gym to work out at? And I was like, every day I post the same gym. What that taught me in that quick little experience was most people, you, myself included, are not paying attention. You could tell me the same thing every single day, and it might take me, I think they say 3-7 times for someone to actually realize that marketing effort. Remember that. And so that for me has been a really big piece of advice I've had to kind of reissue to myself of, don't feel like you need to get caught up to the next big craze, the next big thing, have this next big campaign. What is that one thing that you do really well? And then every day go to market with that message.
If I was stuck in an elevator and I had to talk to my old self, the first thing I would say is be brave. This is a new and pioneering industry, and there are changes at every turn. It is something that we have experienced in a lot of different avenues of our business. I would also say be patient. Whether you know the answer or are open-minded and learning new things, you will figure it out. You will get there, and if you can't, you will find the resources. Keep your conversations open to people, network. It's really important to know that you're not alone, even if you have experienced something new. I guarantee you somebody has been through it, whether it's in this industry or not, and there's some new regulations and laws that are going to come out that may make it easier and may make it harder. But overall, we're shaping this industry, and it's super important to keep that in mind. Keep your integrity, and take a deep breath at times, because it does get a little crazy, but stay positive, and you got it.